When my wife disappeared, I thought I had lost her forever. But when she came back 3 days later, I realized it wasn't her anymore. Or was it just me? Lucy had always been a person of habits. She got up at the same time, made her coffee exactly as prescribed, took the same route to work. I often teased her about her pedantry, but she only smiled back. It was her way of feeling in control of her life. When Lucy didn't return from work on Friday night, I didn't immediately sound the alarm. I thought she was running late or had gone to a friend's house. But when night fell and her phone was disconnected, I started to worry. I called all my friends and acquaintances, but no one had seen her. In the morning, I went to the police station and filed a missing persons report. The cops assured me they would look for her, but somehow I felt they didn't take it seriously. After all, grown people sometimes just disappear without warning anyone. I didn't sleep for 2 days, checking my phone and going outside every hour. I thought the worst: a car accident, a kidnapping, an accident. On the third day, I woke up to a knock on the door. Hope flared in my heart. I opened the door and froze. Lucy stood before me. Pale, haggard, with disheveled hair and a blank stare. Lucy. I rushed to hug her, but she stood there like a statue. "Hi, Jake," she whispered. I led her inside and sat her down on the couch. "Where have you been? What happened?" She was silent, staring at the floor. I poured her some water, but she didn't touch it. "Can you tell me what happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I don't remember." Her answer stunned me. "What do you mean you don't remember? You just left and didn't come back. Where were you for 3 days?" Lucy looked up, and I noticed her lips trembling. "I really don't know, Jake. The last thing I remember is getting off work. And then. Nothing." I tried not to pressure her and suggested we get some rest. Lucy lay down in the bedroom and fell asleep almost immediately. But I couldn't stop asking questions. What had happened to her? Why didn't she remember anything? I called my friend Tom, who worked as a private detective. I told him about the situation and he promised to help. A couple hours later, he arrived with a laptop and started checking the camera footage around Lucy's office. It took us a long time to find any clue. In one of the videos we spotted Lucy. She left the building and walked towards the parking lot. But then her silhouette disappeared from the frame. The parking lot cameras didn't pick up anything. It's like she just vanished into thin air. "That's weird," Tom muttered. "Usually the cameras cover the whole parking lot. Maybe someone took her away." "Maybe. But where?" I was about to suggest that we go to the police when I heard footsteps behind me. Lucy stood in the doorway, looking at us with a puzzled expression. "What are you doing?" "Just checking the records," I answered, trying to speak calmly. She frowned. "Why?" "I'm back already." Her voice sounded distant, like she wasn't talking to me, but to someone in her head. I closed the laptop and walked over to her. "Lucy, it's okay. We just want to help you understand what happened." "Don't," she whispered. "I don't want to think about it anymore." Over the next few days, I began to notice strange changes in her behavior. Lucy had always worn the gold ring I'd given her for our anniversary, but now it wasn't on her hand. When I asked about it, she froze. "The ring? I must have lost it." It was strange, Lucy always kept track of her things. Then I noticed she was making coffee differently. Instead of her usual cappuccino, she preferred black, no sugar. When I noticed this, she just shrugged her shoulders. I thought it was time to try something new. But what struck me most was the way she started to treat me. Lucy used to always touch my arm gently when she talked to me, but now she avoided physical contact. I tried to hug her once, but she froze as if I was a stranger. One night I woke up to the sound of voices in the living room. I cautiously walked to the door and listened. "He doesn't know anything," Lucy whispered. I looked into the room. She was standing in front of the mirror and seemed to be talking to herself. "You can't tell him. He won't understand," she continued, looking into her eyes. I took a step back and accidentally hit the table. Lucy turned around and stared at me with a blank stare. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. She nodded, but her smile seemed strained. I decided to set up a hidden camera in the living room to see what was going on at night. The next morning, I checked the tape. My heart sank when I saw Lucy sitting in front of the mirror, talking quietly. "He can't find out," she whispered, looking into her reflection. Then she stopped talking and looked sharply toward the camera, as if she sensed its presence. "Jake thinks I'm still the same. He hadn't noticed." My hands trembled. I realized that something had broken in her head after that disappearance. But what was it? I showed the tape to Tom and he suggested we check her medical records. We went to the clinic where Lucy had been seen before. But there we got another shock. "I'm sorry, but there's no record of her last checkup in the database," the nurse said. "How not? She was here months ago. Maybe the data was deleted or moved." Tom looked at me anxiously. "Are you sure she's the same Lucy? When your significant other comes home, you think things will be like they used to be. But what do you do when he's not the same person he was?" After visiting the clinic, I felt even more lost. How can you just erase a person's data? And if it wasn't a mistake, who had done it and why? When we got home, Lucy met us at the doorstep. Her face was strangely calm, like she knew where we'd been. "Where did you go?" she asked, looking straight into my eyes. "Just to get some air," I answered, trying not to show my anxiety. Lucy looked at Tom and suddenly smiled. But it wasn't her smile, not warm and kind, but cold and lifeless. "What are you doing here, Tom?" Her voice sounded strained. "I just came to see how you were," he answered, clearly confused. "I'm fine. I'm just a little tired." I noticed her eyes were a little unfocused, like she hadn't really seen us. The next day, I decided to check her laptop while Lucy showered. I opened the recent documents folder and found a file called The Plan. I opened it and felt a chill run down my spine. It had the following written down. "Don't show him any emotion. Pretend everything is fine. Don't bring up the past. Avoid questions about work." I froze, not knowing what it meant. Why had she made a list like that? I checked the creation date. The file was created the day after she returned. "What are you doing in there?" Lucy's voice came from behind me. I turned around sharply and slammed the laptop shut. "Just checking my email," I lied. She squinted at me, but didn't say anything. Later that night, we were sitting on the couch, watching an old movie. Lucy suddenly rested her head on my shoulder, a gesture she hadn't done in a long time. I felt strangely relieved. Maybe I was just imagining things. But then she suddenly looked up and asked, "Jake, how did we meet?" I frowned. "Don't you remember? At Sam's party. You accidentally spilled wine on my jacket." She paused for a moment, as if considering an answer. "Right. Yeah, I remember." I realized she was lying. Lucy always laughed when recalling this story, but now her face remained impassive. "Lucy, are you sure you're okay?" I asked. "Sure, I'm just a little tired," she replied, looking away. The next day I decided to call her former work colleague, Ben. He had known Lucy since university and had always been warm to her. When I told him about her disappearance and return, he was silent for a few seconds. "You know, we've got some weird stuff going on here, too." "What do you mean?" "After Lucy went missing, some people came to see us. Said they were checking out her workplace. But the weirdest thing is they took her laptop and her papers. Said it was on orders from the boss. But the boss didn't know anything about it." I felt my insides clench. "And then what?" "They left without explaining anything. Lucy didn't show up for work afterward, and everyone assumed she'd just quit without notice." I thanked Ben and hung up. If someone had taken her stuff from work, then they knew where she was. But why hadn't they told me? I decided to talk to Tom again. He arrived tonight and brought his laptop with him. He said he'd done a background check on the people who worked with Lucy. "Jake, there's something strange here," he said, opening the file. "Lucy has two personnel files. One lists her as a regular office employee, and the other, she's listed as a surveillance subject." I couldn't believe my ears. Surveillance? Yeah. Looks like she was working for the government. Not directly, of course. But she was involved in some project back in college. And she's been tracked ever since. I was shocked. Lucy never told me she worked for the government. What was the project? There's no record of it. But apparently, when she went missing, someone had been actively looking for her and had even taken her work laptop. I could feel everything starting to fall apart. If Lucy was involved in something secret, she could either be tampered with or controlled. Late at night, I woke up to a strange sound in the kitchen. I cautiously walked to the door and peeked inside. Lucy was standing by the window talking on the phone. No, he hadn't realized anything yet. Yeah, everything's according to plan. I froze, trying to comprehend what I was hearing. She spoke calmly and confidently, like she was reporting to someone. No, I won't fail. He can't know the truth. When she finished talking, I went back to the bedroom and pretended to sleep. Lucy returned a couple minutes later, lay quietly next to me, and hugged me like nothing had happened. I knew that in the morning I would have to make a choice: either talk to her directly or try to find out the truth for myself. But one thing was clear, the Lucy I knew was gone. Or maybe she never existed. When a loved one returns after a long absence, you think things will finally get better. But what do you do when the person who comes back isn't the person you remember? In the morning I woke up before Lucy. She was asleep on her side of the bed, covered up to her chin, her face calm and serene. I stared at her for a long time, trying to figure out what had changed. After all, this is the same woman I love. But then why was everything so unnatural? I remembered the conversation I'd had on the phone the night before. Those words wouldn't come out of my head. No, he hasn't realized anything yet. Everything's going according to plan. I needed to know the truth, and I needed to know it now. I got up quietly and went into the kitchen to reach Tom. "Hi," I whispered into the phone. "I need your help." "Is something wrong?" "Yeah. I don't think Lucy is who she seems. We met in the park so Lucy wouldn't notice my absence. I told Tom about our conversation the other night." "Dude, that really sounds creepy," he frowned. "Are you sure it was her?" 100%. I heard her voice." Tom hesitated for a moment. I remembered one thing. Last time I checked Lucy's background, I noticed a strange mark on her personnel file. It's coded, Subject D17. What does that mean? I don't know. But if she's really involved in government projects, we need to find out more. We decided to double-check the security footage from the parking lot outside her office. In one of the videos, we finally noticed a strange moment. Lucy walks away to her car, but a few seconds later, another woman with the same hair and clothes appears in the frame. They glance over, and the second Lucy disappears around the corner. "Shit, there's two of them!" Tom exclaimed. "How is that possible?" I realized I needed to check her personal belongings. When I got home, Lucy was in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. I told her I had work to do and went to her room. As I opened the closet, I noticed a small suitcase on the top shelf. When I pulled it out, I saw that it was locked with a combination lock. I spent a long time trying to figure out the combination until I remembered our wedding date. Click. The lock opened. Inside were several envelopes with other people's names and pictures. I pulled out one of the envelopes and opened it. There were papers for Lucy Grayson, a different name, a different date of birth. One of the photos was of Lucy with a short haircut and a serious look. I turned the photo over and saw the caption. Subject D17. Control subject. "What the hell," I muttered. At that moment, Lucy walked into the room. She looked at me and the suitcase in my hands, and her face darkened. "You weren't supposed to see that, Jake. Who are you?" I clutched the photographs in my hands. "I'm your wife. Have you forgotten?" Her voice was cold and calm. "No, my wife doesn't lie to me. You are different." She sighed and slowly sat down on the edge of the bed. "Jake. I can't explain everything. Just trust me, I didn't want you to know." "Who are you?" I repeated with pressure. "My name is really Lucy. But not the Lucy you knew before." I felt my insides tighten. I don't understand. I was created as her replacement. The real Lucy died. It was an experiment. I was supposed to be brought into her life to see if you'd notice the switch. I was shocked. You're a clone. Something like that. But I'm me. I remember everything she felt. Everything she loved. My head is spinning. Why did you do it? Why didn't you tell me before? Because I really loved you, Jake. And I still did, even though I knew the truth. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Tom came in, and his face was troubled. Jake, you're not going to believe this. I found information about Project D-17. It's an experiment to replace lost partners. They create replicas to see if humans can accept the switch. But the project was shut down because the copies were unstable. Lucy stood up and walked over to us. I knew you'd find out the truth. But I didn't want it to happen this way. Where is the real Lucy? I demanded an answer. She died in the accident, she answered quietly. I am her copy, her memory, her love. I looked at Tom, and he just shook his head. This is crazy, I whispered. Lucy stepped closer and took my hand. I'm still the one who loves you. Does that make a difference? I realized I was facing a choice. This woman in front of me is a replica, but she still feels and remembers. She truly believed her love for me was real. I looked at her for a long time, and then said quietly. I don't know if I can live with that. Lucy lowered her head and a tear appeared on her cheek. I understand. But I can't go back to them. I want to be with you. Tom put his hand gently on my shoulder. Jake, the decision is yours. No one can tell you what's right. I took Lucy's hand and felt it trembling. If you really want to be with me, I won't leave you. But we need to work this out. Together. Lucy smiled weakly and pressed herself against me. I knew this story wasn't over, but I couldn't leave her alone. Sometimes the truth is scarier than a lie. But if the feelings are real, isn't that what matters?